What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is September 15th of 2018. Well, folks, it's time for a daily update here on the DataDash channel. I hope you are having a wonderful Saturday. Today, we've got lots of different things to talk about here on the update. First and foremost, as always, we're going to be taking a look at market valuations as well as doing some technical analysis on the market leaders. But outside of this as well, we're going to be taking a look at a few different headlines. We're going to be talking a little bit about what's known as whale watching in a recent Bloomberg article that covered a Bitcoin whale that had over $2 billion worth of Bitcoin, and also the conspiracies that can brew around it. Along with that, we'll be talking about the European Central Bank's announcement of their current stance on a central bank cryptocurrency. We've talked about this before on the channel ever since the BIS proposal quite some time ago. And along with that as well, we'll be taking a look at US equities as well as doing a little bit of a review on commodities. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive in right into the update. Generally speaking, the market has taken quite a positive tone over the past few days. There hasn't been anything too serious to cover anything in regards to breaking news or any crazy trend changers in this case in the market. But for the most part, because Bitcoin has been grinding slower to the upside, testing towards some key moving averages, we've seen altcoins do quite well. Now, the important thing to point out here, guys, is that anytime that the market gets optimistic, anytime we start to see some double-digit altcoin moves, people think, are we in an altcoin cycle? We are not in an altcoin cycle just yet. Volume is very thin in this market, and even though if we take a look across the board, practically all cryptocurrencies are in the green and the top 100, for the most part, we have not seen any serious catalyst yet. We need to see something that's going to cause a breakout towards some serious resistance for Bitcoin. Again, Bitcoin is going to carry markets. Now, as we can see here, we are luckily not making any more lows. In regards to market cap, we've gotten back over a key level of $200 billion in valuation. And again, still gives us a lot of room for a potential run up here over the next few weeks or months if we can get past some key levels of resistance. We'll take a look at that as we take a look at the charts later. Going on here towards market cap, we can see that the trend has definitely, following the trend, has played into certain traders' favors here. However, we are starting to see some serious trend changes here. For example, whereas we have a nice steady uptrend here for quite some time in the chart, we can see that there's some drastic downturns. And when you get enough of these, you can start to signal that the market is starting to change tones. Not to mention, it's important not to just look at the Bitcoin dominance here. In fact, to also focus in on some key things that are driving markets. We see that other coins have not made new lows and are actually holding quite well at these levels comparative to Bitcoin. And along with that, we have Ethereum finally seeing some sort of reversal in trend. And if this keeps up over the next day or two, I'm pretty sure that you're going to be seeing Bitcoin and other coins as well starting to lead in the market, with other coins or altcoins in general starting to go at a faster pace, meaning that we might be able to smash through key levels of resistance on Bitcoin and see altcoins get a very, very nice bounce, which we have yet to see. So let's go ahead here, take a look at Bitcoin. Taking it down towards the daily view, we can see on the RSI, we're not overbought, we're not oversold, we're quite neutral on the RSI. Taking a look at long and short positions, longs are obviously getting a little bit more confident. Nothing too serious though. What I like is that, we haven't really seen what we see on the short side. Shorts come rallying in every time Bitcoin gets a little bit of resistance, but we don't really see that on the long side. And I actually kind of like that because it tends to be that the contrarian viewpoint is actually what wins, meaning that if there's not a lot of longs going in at this moment, and we'll get them rushing in later on when prices are actually moving up. That's what we tend to find when we take a look at leverage positions. But again, we're in over bearish territory in regards to the shorts here on Bitfinex. So again, the tone is clearly set in stone right now. Most people are still bearish, or at least in a liquidity basis, more people are bearish than bullish. And to be fair, there is a few things that still have me worried. Like I said, the biggest thing is volume right now and not having a serious catalyst at the moment to carry Bitcoin higher. But if we take a look at the technical side of things, I'm still at a relatively neutral point. I'm not bullish, I'm not bearish. What am I looking for? I'm currently looking for 3 levels of resistance to serve as a catalyst of support, and that is the 50 and 100 day. These are acting together. They're relatively at the same price range, and really a little less than $300 away from where we are currently. If we can get above that, make that support like we did back over here, and get past this line of resistance, again, we're getting very tight here in this price range. It's not too hard for Bitcoin to make these kind of moves. All we seriously need is a decent amount of volume coming in and to be able to hold that price range. And finally, it's the 200 day. If we break the 200 day, I'm going to get extremely confident on Bitcoin. But at the moment, nothing too serious. There's no serious trend right now at the moment. We're going sideways. But one thing I will point out to the bears here and it's very, very important to notice, is that we are not making the same lows or lower lows in regards to price. We're actually making higher lows on Bitcoin. You can see our bottom over here was a little bit under $5,800 on Bitcoin. We can see that over here we made around in the mid $5,800 range, and then we can see over here the low that we made on the chart was 6,100. So you can see that there's a definite trend building here on price. And price is getting bought at higher levels, meaning that confidence, or at least some of the larger buyers, are starting to come in at a higher price range. They're paying a premium in this case. And again, this might go towards the theory of, the cost of mining and everything. Look, again, maybe we'll do a deeper analysis on that. Fact of the matter is, we're making higher lows, and that's a definite sign that price is wedging in, and we're expecting either a big breakout or a breakdown. So we're going to keep an eye on that. If we continue to keep that trend up, it could be very, very interesting. Going on here, let's go ahead and take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum got a very stellar rebound, actually matching the buy side volume on most exchanges with the previous day of sell side. If we take it here to Binance, it comes clear as well. We got a lot more volume trading on Binance than most exchanges, but we can see here that prices moved from around 2,600,000 Satoshis all the way up to 3,400,000. So a definite move here, and really kind of put into perspective here, we can take a look at the USD chart as well. So going all the way from a low of around $170 to $225 is quite impressive for Ethereum, and at least brings some confidence back to the bulls after all of the bearishness that has brewed in markets over the past few weeks. So what is the thing that I'm currently looking for? I gotta say, to be fair, guys, so long as Bitcoin keeps moving slowly to the upside and doesn't see any serious moves on resistance, I think you're gonna at least try to make it up back here to this kind of mean and USD valuation around $280 to $300. That's where the 50 days approaching, and it's a question of whether or not it will clear right through the 50-day or see some resistance. So I think you've got some range for Ethereum to make a pretty nice recovery, again, so long as Bitcoin doesn't see resistance. You've got to keep an eye on Bitcoin for some of these larger altcoins, because again, we're taking a look at the USD value here, but even its Bitcoin comparative, I think Ethereum could rise a decent degree. So again, I think there's a good gap there for a trade. In my personal opinion, you got to do your own research and see if you see what I see, but as a trader, I don't see any serious points of resistance, maybe outside of 250, which is where we had two serious bounces here around this level with buyers coming in. So let's go ahead here, take a look at XRP. XRP BTC. We can see Ripple generally holding at the same lows here. This was something I talked about looking out for to see if we could get a double bottom here, and so far we've got that, but it's no serious rebound just yet. Again, I think this isn't going to really be moving until you see a massive move on Bitcoin. I know people are eager to trade Ripple the more and more we go down in price, because again, as we see with Ripple's price history, we'll take it here to Bittrex, it's obviously clear that you don't want to hold Ripple many times in the past. You want to just generally get it at the right point where momentum kicks in. So far, we haven't seen that initial volume, that initial candle coming in, and because of that, we're not trading it. At least I'm not. So going on here, let's go ahead and take a look at a few more Bitcoin Cash, coming back down to the abysmal 5 million Satoshis. Incredible how far it's come down, but I think it's going to go down a little bit more. Again, we're going to need to get it down towards that previous support range, in my opinion, so I'm not touching it until going on here. Let's go ahead and take a look at EOS. EOS right now testing to see if we can get above the 50-day. Again, served as previous resistance over here, so you're going to want to get a breakout above it and a close on the 50-day before we see any serious moves higher to where I would deem a trade being worthy. So again, RSI isn't overbought or anything, so it could be potentially good here, but I'm going to be patient. Going on, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the protocols. I know some of you wanted me to talk about them because some of them have continued to make lower levels. Cardano had a massive sell side amount of volume here. This is actually on Bittrex. Let's make sure. I think that was consistent on Binance as well. Yeah, it was a pretty steady amount of volume I was watching the other day, where you had a pretty big drop down to around 1,000 Satoshis. Now we've been holding. This is a very big even level, and again, comparative to Bitcoin, is around 8 to 9 times cheaper than where it was back in December. Not to mention Bitcoin's obviously gone down, and we're right down where it was practically when it got listed on Binance. This is the kind of range where you're not only seeing the RSI dramatically oversold, it's actually been oversold for a few days now, but the fact that it's holding at a very key even level like that. Keep an eye on some of these protocols, the ones that are steady players like Cardano. Going on, I'll talk a little bit about Icon here. Icon is testing a little bit of resistance here. This has been an area where I've been confident and potentially going along because it's back where it generally opened again on Binance. I think that was what was very much needed, I think, with a lot of these protocols to kind of cut out a lot of the fluff and the hype. Right now, it's a matter of getting above the 50-day, which has served as resistance here, 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 and here. So we have to get above some of these moving averages. Again, we're getting an opportunity, though, because price is flattening out comparative to Bitcoin. Altcoins haven't been losing as much momentum as they have been over the past few months of this bear market, signaling that we might be getting a trend reversal. I want to go through a few momentum plays here, and I'll talk about the one that I'm really watching for potential trade. Tron right here is, again, having a double bottom. This is good to see. Again, you want to get above the moving averages to signal a trend reversal and get above some of these previous prices before we really do the longer term trends. Again, I like to play these longer term swings, but you got to see what feels comfortable with you. I like playing the bigger swings, though. I don't like trading a few Satoshis. I like to see a double or triple comparative to Bitcoin in some of these smaller term swings. And you can get those if you play them right. Going on, a few people have asked about Binance Coin, and we'll take a look at the last one that I want to talk about. Binance Coin has actually signaled some really nice support here. Again, this has been a key level back here around 15,000 Satoshis right here, here, and generally around here. Again, you're never going to get things exactly on point, but we've been generally holding around this level quite well. Excuse me, more around 14,000 Satoshis. So if we can continue to hold that, get above some of these moving averages, I think it could be very, very well potentially set up for a nice trade. Again, this has been killing against Bitcoin over the past few months. Binance is still the leading exchange at the moment. So last thing I want to talk about is Nano. Now, I've talked about Nano quite dramatically as of recent, and the reason why is because I'm loving the amount of volume that Nano is getting, and it seems quite organic. It's sporadic. You can see there's days where it's dropping, it's going up. This isn't clear set in stone market maker volume. This is really nice to see. It's organic trading, and I think a lot of people are getting excited about this because it's the peer-to-peer digital currency space. That's where I think the focus is going to be going into the rest of 2018 and 2019. And along with that as well, we can see here that this had a dramatic sell-off ever since December. It's one of the most oversold cryptocurrencies compared to its highs in December. So what I'm looking for here is for this to hold, hopefully on the 50-day, which is curving up, as well as the 100-day here. I think if you can get that, this could stabilize for a better uptick in the long term, but it has definitely had a nice rebound with nice volume. So to those who got the trade on it, very nice in regards to that, but I will be keeping an eye on it over the next few days. Again, my general play is peer-to-peer digital currencies. Look at Monero and Dash, some of these larger, well-established players, and I think those will do quite well in regards to trading. So enough talking on trading here. Let's go ahead and jump through our headlines here, and then we'll take a look at commodities and equities. There has been a big mysterious whale in the cryptocurrency space. As we all know, you can look at the public ledger data of Bitcoin. You can see transactions happening real time in the ledger. So if someone's moving $50 or 50 million or $5 billion worth of Bitcoin on the ledger, you are going to see it on the ledger so long as you spend the time to analyze it. And in this case, there was a whale with over 50,000 Bitcoins that had been spotted on the open Bitcoin ledger over the past few months, moving said Bitcoin. And many people are curious as to whether or not these large whales are playing a role in the sell-off. Now, I want to spend some time to go through the article, and then I'm going to give you guys my honest opinion as to how much of a role that whales do play in this regard, because the media loves to kind of hype up these things. When I analyze an article like this, I see $2 billion worth of Bitcoin and 50,000 Bitcoin and, all these, it's usually very fear driven, like, oh, the whales are just cashing out. I'll tell you guys generally what's kind of true and what's not from what I can analyze, but again, it's just my opinion. So I'll go down here to give you a good visual representation. They actually brought up about how Reddit will go about analyzing these whales, whether it be on r/Bitcoin or r/cryptocurrencies or other subreddits that actually specifically focus in on trying to track the ledger and things like that, usually smaller communities. It's something known as whale watching, where people started back in around late August, spotting a whale starting to move Bitcoin funds away from their wallet into some other type of wallet. And we also saw that we could see here as well that when after the Bitcoin had started to move into the other wallet, we started to see Goldman Sachs reportedly retreating on crypto plans. This is not true. Of course, it was fake news that broke out, and also Goldman Sachs came out and clarified this. So again, this leads to a question. Is this manipulation? Is it build up in price as Bitcoin are being moved to be dumped off and sold? And then obviously kick in the fake news, sell the Bitcoin. look, I think, again, people like to build connections. I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist myself. I love doing things like that and trying to spot potential connections, but I try to do it with a sense of rationale. If I don't know what's going on at the moment, if I don't have a smoking gun in some sense that something's happening, I'm not going to go ahead and assume things to that drastic of a degree, guys. To be fair with you all, I really don't think that's the case, or what they're assuming here in the article is the case. There is a lot of whales in the space. I can tell you guys, I've worked with people in the OTC space. I've learned about the kind of volume that is being processed, the amount of buy orders that are coming in. I gotta say, more than anything, there's more buyers than sellers, which is, again, setting a very high demand that we don't see on the exchanges because it's happening off exchange. And that's the big point I want to lead here, is that these whales who are trading 10,000 Bitcoin, 20,000 Bitcoin, 50,000 Bitcoin, or even higher levels. I've seen orders of hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin on the buy side and sell side. The fact of the matter is, guys, is that they are not going to be selling this on exchange. They can, if they want to liquidate their 50,000 Bitcoin, I can name you 15 different OTC firms who want to liquidate it right then and there. All right, they will take your order. They will start the paperwork. If you're negotiating fine on price, if you're flexible, you will get those 50,000 Bitcoin sold without ease. And the thing is, they even stated in the article, there is no proof that these Bitcoin went to an exchange. So that's the big point I want to drill in here, is that large traders like this, or whales, or whatever you want to call them, institutions, some of them are not institutions. Some of them got very lucky and are just sometimes one person or a small mining operation. These groups or individuals will not sell on exchanges. They might, for example, and this is something I don't doubt that's happening out there, is I wouldn't doubt that there are some whales who will push price for trading on BitMEX, or sometimes will keep price suppressed so that they could buy a lot of Bitcoin on OTC. So, for example, if it takes 10,000 Bitcoin over a month period to keep Bitcoin down, it's selling 10,000 Bitcoin to keep price down at 6,000, and then you're going to be buying 100,000 Bitcoin at 6,000 rather than having to pay 7,000 for your Bitcoin, or 8,000. I could see how some people would be doing that, but to be fair, they're not going to be selling the majority of their holdings on exchanges. They do it OTC. It's just how it works. And the reason they do that is because of slippage, as well as privacy benefits, and a variety of other things that we talked about when we did our OTC interview with Caleb and Brown, which if you haven't seen, I recommend you guys go check that out, because I think OTC interests a lot of people. But anyways, again, this is something that's really interesting. I love the fact that people are going through actually trying to do a little bit of detective work on this. And again, there is always question of manipulation in crypto markets, but I think more than anything, this is just simply, again, whales moving money to other accounts, whereas they're doing OTC trades. I don't think it's so much them dumping on exchanges. That's usually smaller, what would be seen as smaller institutions, or really just large retail traders. So nothing too serious in that regard, in my opinion. All right, going on here. The European Central Bank states that they have no plans for a cryptocurrency, or at least a central bank cryptocurrency. This is something, again, we've talked about. If you guys look up the BIS money flower, you can see that this has been a potential proposal for quite some time. A central bank cryptocurrency has been talked about since back in 2015, before crypto even went completely mainstream. Banks have known about them for a while, and they've actually been on the table for discussion for being a potential tool in case of having to create a new currency, or maybe in potentially in currency crises. However, in this case, they've actually been stating, the European Central Bank actually came out, and Mario Draghi came out and stated that they actually have no plans for a central bank cryptocurrency. Now, why would this be? Well, right at the moment, guys, to be fair, as much as, again, I think most people come from a doomsday perspective in the crypto space for finance, more than anything, the euro is still a relatively strong currency on the global stage. Compared to what's going on in emerging markets, there's no need to create a secondary cryptocurrency. Now, we might see over time the European Central Bank do exactly what's been happening, for example, in Sweden. They have I'm trying to think of the currency name right now, but basically it's a purely digital currency that Sweden has been exploring with. And you might get something like that, maybe some kind of experimental currency that builds up over time, and again operates just like all traditional currencies in the digital space, under central bank control, that can be censored, that can be removed from accounts if it's tied to activity that the government doesn't like, whatever it may be. But at the moment, there's no need for it, because the euro is holding quite well in its value. And along with that, they probably don't want to push familiarity and, in a sense, comfort, in a sense, with cryptocurrencies to its average citizens if they can keep people using traditional fiat for as long as they can. I think it's going to be more of a last resort. And they are analyzing, however, the potentials of issuing such a currency. Again, these central banks, if they're going to actually go about creating such cryptocurrencies, they're going to have to build an architecture around it. They're going to actually be managing, most likely, the accounting systems for these. So for example, your checking account, your savings account, these might be registered under a central bank if it's run under a central bank and authorized under a central bank. It's not going to be that much different because, again, as many of you might know, central banks usually are owned by the commercial banks. But in this case, again, there's not a real serious regard for creating such a currency just yet. It is something to keep an eye on, though. Again, there is, excuse me, I just remember the name of the currency, the krona. This is the electronic currency that Sweden's been exploring with. And when we see these economies going towards a cashless society, this has been a potential talking point for quite some time. Sweden's really been in the forefront of that. And many people say that that's a serious issue. Richard Hart did a great piece when he was speaking at a conference with Ivan on tech moderating. Did a really good job ranting about that. But we can see cash demand is growing in the European Union. So right now, again, I don't see it happening anytime in the future. I've had many people ask me about whether or not we're going to get a central bank cryptocurrency. All right, so let's go ahead here, take a last look at equity markets here for the update. Right now, no serious trends happening on any of the major indicators. If we take a look at the NASDAQ, no serious trend. Taking a look at the Dow Jones here, no serious moves here. Again, testing to see if it can get above those highs. My key thing I'd say out of all of these indexes, the important thing to watch is to see if the Dow Jones is going to break highs. We've seen that in the NASDAQ, and we also saw it in the S&P 500 as well. But if the Dow Jones cannot make its weight in the market, it's one of the three major indexes, that could be a very early sign to see whether or not we're going to get a pullback in the market. So keep an eye on the Dow Jones. Most people look at the NASDAQ or the S&P 500 or the Russell because they like seeing which one. Obviously, they move much faster than the Dow Jones usually because they're more riskier stocks. It's not the three large major companies, industrial companies in the U.S. So again, it can be more volatile and fun to watch. But the Dow Jones is an important indicator. Do not doubt the Dow Jones. So again, no serious trend reversals or trend changes at the moment, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I do want to spend some time to take a look at our three commodities. Gold got rejected at the 50-day, almost had a double top here and is rolling over. Again, the next time I would even consider building a position in gold is to take a look at these lows and see if we get a double bottom, but I think we've got a little bit of a ways to go. I think we're going to go all the way down to around $1,120 per ounce, around that price range. The previous low is what we saw beforehand, and worst case scenario back down to around $1,000. But again, that's quite some time away. And taking a look at silver, silver is really the commodity play I'm watching. I would look potentially for a rebound on silver around $14 an ounce, and the reason I say that is because the silver to gold ratio, or the gold to silver ratio, is quite drastic right now, meaning that silver is quite cheap compared to gold at the moment, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on that for the next few weeks to see if we can get a rebound. And I want to spend some time to talk about URA for uranium. URA has been, again, holding steady. It was looking a little bit worrying the other day, as we've seen in the past. Sometimes it'll dip a little bit outside the wedge, but as always, we've had buyers coming in. It's a question of getting above these moving averages and just simply maintaining on this line up until January of 2019. If we get a breakout here, guys, above this line of resistance, I'm going to be definitely looking at a trade on uranium, especially if crypto markets don't pick up. But again, I think crypto is still where I'm betting most of my money right now. I have not made any positions in commodities or equities at the moment, so I'm remaining patient. But if equities start turning, cryptocurrencies don't start moving, commodities are going to be the play again. Commodities have not been this cheap to the S&P 500 in literally almost 50 years. So that's a pretty good discount, to say the least. Anyways, that's it for the video, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. If there's anything that you guys have in regards to questions or comments, please leave it down in the comments down below and get a discussion going with the community. If there's anything that you'd like me to cover in the next video, let me know down below. But until then, hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.